Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 81st part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 81, Is it okay to eat meat? I would like to once again apologize for my actions, Izumi said sheepishly. Izumi, Tenya said from his position on the floor, looking straight up and refusing to look at his legs. I know you wanted to help us, but please, no more analyzing our quirks. The rest of the class were in similar states. Either sitting or lying about, blank looks on their faces. They had just come back from the day's super move development training lesson, and it had been going well. Up until Mina decided to ask Izumi for help developing super moves. Needless to say, they were not prepared for it. Toru just blinked, staring off aimlessly. She was fully visible, but was it really worth it considering the price she had to pay? The things Izumi had told her seemed so simple, and yet, no one had ever told her before. She may never mentally recover from this. The only ones who were unaffected by this were Izumi herself, and Achiko. There was also Inko and Eri, the latter of whom was just looking at everyone with a confused look on her face. Big sis. Why is everyone acting so strange? I may have gotten a bit carried away, Izumi replied sheepishly. Carried away. Carried away. Dark Shadow said as she poked out of an almost catatonic fumigage. You call this carried away? If this is what you called carried away, then I don't want to see deliberate looks like. I have too many ideas now, May said as she lay on the sofa. That's never happened to me before. Where do I even begin? I would suggest that we ask Izumi to analyze the quirk of the next villain we face, Yui said. But I'm pretty sure doing so would be classified as a war crime or something. Ribbit, Tsu croaked before she turned to Himiko, who was stretched out on her lap. You okay? Himiko didn't respond. She just laid there looking like a cat trying to find that one elusive brain cell. I may never recover, Ijiro remarked. Perhaps a means to stop her from going on a quirk analysis rampage is necessary, Durandal suggested. All in favor of implementing a quirk analysis alarm, say aye. Momo said. Everyone save for Izumi promptly said aye. Izumi sighed. Yeah, maybe she did go a bit overboard. Fuck it, Mina suddenly said as she stood up. Everyone who was there. To the special meeting room. Everyone looked up at her. You are, Mina. Are you sure now is a good time? Kyoka asked. Wouldn't it be better to do this later? No. We are doing this now. Mina retorted. I need to do something to forget the madness I accidentally caused, and this is the only way I know how to do it, by talking about a very fucked up thing. Mom, can you look after Eri for a bit? Izumi asked as everyone got up and made their way upstairs. Sure, Inko said with a smile. Izumi smiled before she followed the others to the poorly named Room of Secrets. Why they decided to name the room where they discuss what that thing said about them that she didn't know, but they did, and she regretted it. The entire class, plus Mei and Chiharu, entered the room and sat down, with Mina holding the talking plush. All right, Mina said, looking nervous. Yes, she was regretting this slightly, but it had to happen sometime, might as well do it now. So, you all heard what that thing said about me, that I like eating rotten flesh. Well, it is true, but there's more to it. I don't really know where it came from. You see, I don't know either of my parents. I was left on the doorstep of a care home as a baby, wrapped up in a leather blanket with nothing else, not even a name. Mina was just to name the people who found me gave me. I had nothing, just a leather blanket. Everyone frowned. None of them knew that she was an orphan, especially Ijiro. He knew her the longest, so this was quite a surprise. Himiko raised her hand and got given the talking plush. That doesn't seem so bad, at least your parents gave you something, she remarked before passing it back. Mina lowered her head. The blanket, it was made from human leather. Everyone went pale, a few even felt sick. A blanket of human skin. That's what she was wrapped up in. Who the hell were her parents? Says someone made a blanket for you from human skin. Minoru shivered. What kind of sick fuck would do that? May promptly opened up a paper bag and threw up inside of it. The police believed that it was made from the skin of my father. They called in a guy who can tell the gender of the animal a piece of leather came from, Mina explained. But they were unable to tell who exactly it was from. There weren't any quirks that could do that, so the investigation went cold. But, because the blanket was evidence in a possible murder investigation, it was taken away from me. And as much as I know it was the right thing to do, that having a blanket made from your own father's skin wasn't something a child should have, I missed that blanket. It was the only thing I had from my parents. And, I desperately wanted it back. As for the rotten meat thing, I'm not sure why I have it. It's not a dietary requirement, my quirk can function perfectly without it. I'm just drawn to the smell and the taste. It freaked a lot of people out at the care home when they found out. The Ishidos, the people who eventually adopted me, were a lot more considerate of my tastes. But, it remains something I kept secret from others due to how badly people treated me because of it. Not as badly as you, Himiko. But it wasn't great either. So yeah, that's me. An orphan who has no idea who her parents were, whose only clue as to who they were is a leather blanket made from who I can assume was my father's skin. Everyone had mixed feelings about what Mina had told them. They weren't all that bothered by the like of eating rotten meat. There were plenty of quirks out there that gave people odd dietary requirements or certain tastes in food that others would find disgusting. But the wrapped up in a leather blanket made from human skin, that was horrifying. It was obvious that Mina didn't have a good early childhood. Abandoned by her parents and surrounded by people who did not like her tastes. And whilst things did improve, she was still afraid of others finding out about her tastes. Himiko especially felt bad as her life was a bit like hers, it just got better as time went on. Izumi meanwhile, sneaked a look into one of her notebooks. Specifically, the one on aliens. The book was open on the page for the Fencha, a species of 7-foot-tall Amazonian moth women who are from the same planet as the Cardrians, who like to eat rotting meat. There was also a footnote on the people who lived on Cardran Prime, that for the other 5 species who lived there, they tended to wrap their children in leather blankets made out of whatever leather they could get their hands on. Including leather from their own dead. Mina just said she liked eating rotten meat and was found wrapped up in a leather blanket made from human skin, probably from her father. Oh dear. I highly recommend not telling her that, Nana recommended. Noted Izumi thought before she looked up, and found herself face to face with Mina, who was looking rather annoyed. Izumi, Mina said, holding onto the notebook and preventing her from closing it. If that notebook of yours is open on a page about an alien race that also likes to eat rotten meat, I will be quite annoyed. Izumi gulped. Maybe she shouldn't have labeled this particular notebook Alien Analysis Number 1. Mina took the notebook and looked at the pages that were open, passing it back to Izumi moments later. Thank you, Izumi, the pink girl said calmly. You have just given me a second existential crisis today. I did not think that was even possible, but you did, and I hate it, she said before she passed the notebook back to Izumi. So it turns out that I might also be a hybrid as well. Might be, Mina. Might be, Izumi corrected. We have no confirmation that you are a Fencha. For starters, they are all 7-foot-tall moth women with 4 arms dash. Ribbit? Who live on a planet where everything wants to eat you, even the ground itself. I highly doubt you are related to one of them, Izumi continued. You don't even have 4 arms, so you're probably not one of them, and we're both just overreacting. You have a point, Mina said. But, until I get confirmation that I'm not one of these Fenchi things. Fencha, Achiko said. Whatever, Mina continued. But yeah, useless I get confirmation that I am not related to one of them, I'm going to be worrying about this every single day. It's not that bad, Himiko said with a shrug. Take me for example. I don't know how I'm a hybrid or what variant of hybrid I am, and I'm not that bothered by it. Okay, I'm somewhat bothered by it, but it's not eating me up inside. That is because you are a cat, Sue said bluntly. And cats tend to not be bothered by anything. Himiko looked at her girlfriend with an unamused look on her face. I am not a cat. Then explain the purring? Sue said smugly. Himiko blinked a few times before turning back towards Mina. As I said, it's not something I'm really bothered by. Also, I drink blood. Do you really think any of us, myself especially, would think any differently of you because you like to eat rotten meat? Mina looked at her sheepishly before shaking her head. No. No, you wouldn't have, she said before she smiled. Thanks, guys. I was rather terrified when that thing said that, but after that thing we did when we assured Achiko that we weren't going to abandon her, it made coming out with this easier. Even if I could have done without the realization that I might be an alien. I'm sorry, Izumi said sheepishly. I didn't know this thing would lead to that. And the moment I realized the connection, I decided to not tell you. Next time, try harder, Mina said. Because I did not need this today. Izumi nodded. Next time she will be a lot more discreet. So, there are 7-foot-tall Amazonian moth women out there, Minoru said. Are there any other races like that out there? Oh, there are several, Achiko replied. You've got the Lessian, 7-foot-tall Amazonian bee-wasp scorpion hybrid woman who can shoot venomous barbs that will turn your insides into honey. The Longana, 7-foot-tall Amazonian ant women who lay their eggs inside of you, letting their children eat you from the inside. The Kaskak, very large Amazonian arachne/drider woman who can turn your insides into soup. The Shikara, 7-foot-tall Amazonian grasshopper woman who will jump on you and eat your face off. And then there are the dominant species, the Cargrians, whose bodies are made up of billions of tiny insects who can easily strip you down to the bone in seconds. Minoru blinked. Okay, so, on one hand, super sexy hot Amazonian alien space women. But on the other hand, getting either eaten alive, my insides turned into soup and or honey, or killed and left to rot by the roadside. I'd probably be nothing more but a light snack to them, he said before he looked around nervously. So when's the public first contact with these ladies going to happen, and can I be the one to do it? Everyone either sighed or sweat dropped. Trust the threat of being devoured alive by alien bug women to not deter him from being around hot alive bug women. Was no one paying attention to the fact that one of those races was described as a bee-wasp scorpion hybrid? Because that's fucking terrifying, Inasa remarked. Oh no, I heard that, Denki said before he looked straight up. God, I have a question for you. Why? Actually, the residents of Cardran Prime don't believe in a god, Achiko said. They believe in what they call the way of the universe. Better known as, consume or be consumed. To them, if you aren't a predator, you're prey to be consumed. And these are civilized people. Denki continued to look up. My question still stands. You're better off asking the flying spaghetti monster at this point, Hanta remarked. God's not going to help you on a planet where everything is out to eat you. Only something as crazy as the flying spaghetti monster can come up with a world that's hostile to everything. Oh God, Kyoka said. Please tell me you two don't believe in the flying spaghetti monster? Yes, the two boys replied in unison. I am dating an idiot, Kyoka sighed. And for some reason, I like it. Okay. I think that's enough for one day, Mina said. I just wanted to get something off my chest, but ended up learning things I really didn't want to know right now. Yeah, I agree, Momo said. I was hoping we wouldn't be hearing more about aliens today, but it looks like we have. Next time I will keep my mouth shut if I expect something like this will happen, Izumi said. Good, Mina said. Because I wanted to get that off my chest, not learn something that may affect my entire life. Don't worry, Mina, just like with Achiko we won't think anything differently about you, Hanta said. Mina smiled. Thanks, guys. It's good that I was able to get that off my chest. We should probably call it a day here. Before someone brings up something that causes another existential crisis. That would probably be for the best. Tenya said. Everyone started to leave the room one by one until there was only Mina, Ijiro, and Izumi left. Remember Mina, you might be a hybrid. Might be, Izumi said just as she was about to leave. For all we know, this could be a coincidence and your taste for rotten meat comes from one of your parents and not an alien. I'll try to keep that in mind, Mina said. Izumi smiled before she turned and left the room with Durandal, leaving Mina alone with Ijiro. Yeah, sorry about not telling you about the whole I'm gay thing, Ijiro said nervously. It's alright, Mina said somberly. At least we avoided a rather awkward and potentially embarrassing situation. I could have sworn you were straight. Yeah, sorry about that, Ijiro said. I just never found girls attractive. Mine huffed. I'm going to have to rethink my shipping charts because this throws everything into disarray. Shipping charts? Ijiro said, looking confused. Why are you shipping everyone in class? Because it's fun and some of them are obvious, Mina replied. Please, I'm not the only one who sees our resident snuggle squad as a group. They all obviously have feelings for each other. And it's only a matter of time before they all get together. But I'm not going to force them all together, that's just going to end in disaster, especially since Izumi's not really in a good state mentally right now. I don't want to risk doing anything to threaten what she already has. Not even get in onto the snuggles. That's odd, Ijiro said. I would have thought you would like them as well. Oh no, I like Izumi and Achiko, those two are just adorable together, Mina said. But they already have enough girls interested in them, and I don't want to feel like I'm trying to force myself into their little snuggle squad. Plus there are like 9 of them, 10 if you count Eri. I can't fit that many people in my bed. That's like half the class in one room. I'm all for a poly relationship, but 9 feels a bit too much for me. Ijiro nodded. Yeah, that does seem like a lot. At least it's not my whitest ship. That would be the 1A boat. Which is all 20 of us. That's really stretching things. It'll require all of us to be both bisexual and okay with dating 19 other people. Which is really pushing things. I must have been drunk on apple juice or something when I came up with that one. Like, that is never going to happen. We've got like 2 confirmed gays, 2 lesbians, and a mix of bi and straight people. Lesbians? Momo and Sue. They are gay as fuck. Izumi maybe, but I'm getting bisexual vibes from her. Okay? Ijiro said and decided to not ask how she could easily tell what sexuality someone is. So, still friends? Mina nodded. Yep, still friends. I'm not going to let something like sexuality get in the way of our friendship. That's just dumb. Ijiro breathed a sigh of relief, glad that his friendship with Mina was still intact. Meanwhile, in Izumi's room, the green-haired girl was currently pacing back and forth muttering "I messed up," over and over again. All the while Achiko and Durandal watched her. It's not that bad, Achiko remarked. I told her something life-changing. Izumi said. Right after promising Nana that I wasn't going to tell her. Who? Achiko asked. One of the previous users, Izumi replied. All Might's mentor and the one who passed one for all to him. Her quirk was float. And is the one quirk I haven't been training on how to use since I'm still scared of heights. Anyway, Nina was trying to get something off her chest, and I ruined it. Yes, I know it's bad, but she was probably going to find this out eventually, Achiko said. We should probably ask Melissa for help with this. She should know what to do. Izumi nodded. Melissa would be able to help them sort out Mina's true heritage. It might be better for everyone if they resolve this as soon as possible. Well, at last she got that rotten meat thing off her chest. That was clearly eating her up inside, Durandal said. Plus her birthday is coming up, so it's probably best that she doesn't have to worry about that. Achiko nodded before she remembered something. Wait. Izumi. When is your birthday? I don't remember you telling me. Izumi turned away nervously. You are, July 15th. It was the day before the summer camp. Achiko stared at Izumi with a blank look on her face before shifting to a frown. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked loudly. "I wanted to celebrate it with you. It's your birthday, for crying out loud." "It's not something I really celebrate, not anymore," Izumi said sheepishly. "After I was diagnosed as quirkless, my birthday became one of the worst days of the year for me. The bullying always got worse on that day. So, I stopped talking about it. Eventually, everyone forgot about it. Only my father really celebrates it now." "Shouldn't you already know this?" Durandal asked. Achiko shook her head. "I only ever saw bits and pieces of your past. Not everything. But still, why didn't you tell me?" "I wanted to celebrate it with you." "I'm sorry," Izumi said. "I didn't want to bother you with it." Achiko pouted. She may not have much money, but she would have liked to have at least spent some time with her girlfriend on her birthday and spoil her a bit. Well then, if she can't spend some time with her on her birthday, then she is going to do the next best thing. "Izumi," Achiko said. "This weekend, we are going out on a late birthday date, and I will spoil you. I do not care how expensive things get, I will pay for everything." "Spoil her anyway." Izumi blinked. Are you sure, Achiko? You said that you don't have much money." "Doesn't matter," Achiko retorted. "I will spoil you. And you will like it." Izumi nodded. "Okay." Looked like she had a date with Achiko this weekend. Achiko, meanwhile, whilst on the outside looked calm, on the inside, however, she was fucking panicking. Izumi was right, she didn't have much money on hand. She couldn't spoil Izumi even if she wanted to, and by mother's name she was going to spoil her girlfriend. So she could either ask Momo for a small loan that she would never be able to pay back, or she could find some other way of making money. Well, she had a few days to find a solution. She could probably find some cash just lying around that she can use. Meanwhile, Momo had a sudden urge to spoil Achiko. But she had no idea where this feeling came from. Wasn't going to stop her from spoiling her. Meanwhile, in Nizu's office, the small mouse bear rat thing sat in his office, drinking a nice cup of tea. Before him sat the young Kaizome wearing his school uniform. "So, Kaizome," Nizu said as he put his teacup down. "How have you been doing these past few months?" "It's been, well," Kaizome replied. "The other rehab kids are better than I expected them to be. But I could do without them all thinking that I'm Stain's younger brother. That's really getting annoying. Well, it's difficult to prove to them that you are Stain the hero killer. That man is, after all, an adult, not a 15-16-year-old boy." "Yeah," Kaizome said sheepishly. He was never going to lie about who he was, but it was so annoying that no one believed him. Maybe he shouldn't have made it so difficult to identify him and left some kind of evidence. Then again, he didn't expect to be de-aged into a teenager. "So, I assume you know that the first years are preparing for the provisional license exam?" Nizu asked. Kaizome nodded. "Eri told me. As well as a lot of other things over the past 2 weeks. She was quite talkative now that she had regained her ability to speak. A bit too early for them if you ask me. They lack a lot of training. The second and third years who will be there have, even if 1A and B have been attacked several times by villains." "Indeed," Nizu said. "Well, I was wondering if you would like to join them." I am sorry?" Kaizome said, almost blue screening. "You want me, a convicted villain, on UA's villain rehabilitation program, to attend the provisional hero license exam? Isn't that illegal? I'm classified as a villain." "And you would be," Nizu replied with a smile, "if you had villainous charges placed against you. Unfortunately, you only have 1 count of vigilantism against you, so it makes this a bit simpler." Kaizome blinked. "Pardon?" Horigaramu then appeared next to Nizu. Unfortunately, despite claiming to be the hero killer Stain and Detective Naomasa claiming it to be true, there's no physical evidence to back that up.
What? Kaizome asked.
But, Naomasa can tell if someone is telling the truth or not.
He can, Nizu said.
But how can we tell that he's not lying about the results? Unless he himself is hooked up to a lie detector, we cannot tell if he is telling the truth. And whilst he has a watch that can tell if he himself is lying, it was unfortunately damaged in an attempted mugging earlier in the day and had to be repaired. So, unless we have, say, some physical evidence that you are who you say you are, all we can really charge you with is breaking into the Shai Hasaikai and rescuing Eri.
Which is vigilantism. So really you're on the wrong program. You should be on the vigilante rehabilitation program.
Kaizome was shocked. Trust the rat to find a way to abuse the true word's law. Honestly, it was so obvious he should have seen it coming. Of course, there was no way for them to confirm who he said he was.
Had Eri not made him younger, then it would have been obvious who he was.
But, as a child, that became a lot more difficult. And Nizu had taken full advantage of it.
So, I'm registered as a vigilante now? Kaizome said.
Fuck. Oh, it's not that bad, Horiguramo said. It just means you now have a lighter sentence.
And since you've been behaving yourself, we've granted you this rare opportunity.
Besides, it would be quite difficult to have you going about performing hero duties without a license.
Kaizome frowned.
So they wanted him to do hero work for you, eh?
Well, he had a thing or two to say about that.
And what if I say no?
He asked.
What if I refuse? Yes, I did once want to be a hero, but with most people wanting to be heroes for personal reasons and not to protect society, I became jaded by the current hero system.
So why ask me to become your lapdog and join a system you know I hate? Nizu frowned.
I fear a war is coming, Kaizome, and it is closer than I would like it to be.
Avalon's remnants are mobilizing once more.
Who leads them I do not know, and it scares me, he explained.
What's more, the League of Villains are gaining traction.
Just recently I heard that the volcano thieves and wild villains are working for them now, among several other high-profile villains.
And other factions are starting to make their presence known to us.
Like it or not, All Might's reign as the symbol of peace is coming to an end.
Why else would the number one hero decide to become a teacher unless he was planning on retiring?
We've seen this happen before with top heroes elsewhere, and here is no exception. The people know he's on the way out, they just don't want to admit it until it's too late.
Like it or not, Avalon is returning, and with it, a much bloodier war. One where we won't have All Might to help us.
It'll be all hands on deck when they return, and the League, and other groups like them, will most definitely take advantage of the coming chaos. We need as many heroes on our side if we are to keep our society afloat.
Our side? Kaizome said, sounding confused.
You speak as if there will be heroes working for Avalon.
You were right about one thing,
Kaizome, Nizu said. Not all heroes have the public's best interest in mind. There are those who care more about personal gain than saving people and are more than willing to help the very villains they are supposed to stop. Such individuals will be more than willing to turn on their own when money is involved. Whether that be Avalon or some other organization.
And you want me to deal with these traitors? Kaizome asked, finally seeing the reason why Nizu was offering him this choice.
He wanted him to deal with these false heroes, legally. Without having to worry about hiding from the police and other heroes. It'll make a change from living on the streets most of the time.
Indeed, Nizu said.
There are heroes who do need dealing with. Some we can deal with legally by bringing their crimes to light. Others need a more lethal solution to solve. It's unfortunate, I know, but sometimes the only way to deal with cancer is to cut it out.
Kaizome nodded. He knew that all too well.
Some fakes were so deeply entrenched that killing them was the only option. Revealing their dirty laundry would do nothing when they have enough power and influence to just make it disappear without any negative effects on them. It was these heroes who he killed. So, you want me to deal with these fakes before they can turn on society, Kaizomi said.
The sooner the better, Nizu said.
Those heroes who do nothing but poison this society must be dealt with. And whilst I'm sure I can deal with some of them,
to get them all, I will need help.
Yours especially would speed a few things up.
But why me? Kaizomi asked. What's stopping me from just going back to what I previously did once I got that provisional license? Why not do it yourself?
I may seem like I am capable of pointing at someone and having them taken out flawlessly, but I can assure you that I am not without flaws. My small size, for instance, makes direct fighting difficult. I can still combat villains, but I prefer to fight them from behind the scenes, learning as much as I can about them as I can before sending other heroes to deal with them.
And even then those plans don't always go perfectly.
There are always unforeseen variables that I cannot predict. No plan survives contact with the enemy after all, he explained.
My finances are also not infinite. My budget may seem infinite, but there is always a limit. I can only fund so much.
And I am not a know-it-all god, as much as some people like to call me so. There are things out there that I do not know about, things that lurk in the dark that scare even me.
Unknowable horrors beyond even my comprehension.
Believe me when I say that I can't defend this country alone.
If Japan is to survive what is to come, we need as much help as we can get, Horigaramu added.
Even if said help comes from those once deemed villains.
Plus you're not the only loose cannon we have on campus. Kanako came to mind, the crazy kleptomaniac.
Ask her to steal some important documents and she'll steal them.
As well as a lot of unnecessary and surprisingly valuable clutter.
She was a thief, after all, a surprisingly good one too. Besides, Horigaramu continued. You can use this as an opportunity to weed out the fakes at the license exam in a non-lethal way.
Giving them more time to think about what makes a true hero. Kaizomi smirked.
Yes, that sounded good. Get to the fakes early and make them rethink what it means to be a hero before they can legally do hero work. Already established heroes don't often change their ways. It was a lot easier to make them change when they were younger and still in school. I'll need some time to think about this, he said.
As tempting as it is, I do not want to be a lapdog.
Don't worry, Nizu said.
We won't force you to take part if you don't want to. The choice is entirely up to you.
You have 2 weeks to make your decision, so you have plenty of time to think it over.
Now that that's all sorted out, you may return to your dorm. Kaizomi nodded, stood up, and walked towards the door.
He half expected Nizu to say something just before he left, but the rat didn't.
He just poured himself another cup of tea.
So he was able to leave without interruption.
Moments after Kaizomi had left, another figure walked into the room and sat down before Nizu.
Ah, Barrows, Nizu said with a smile.
It's nice to finally meet you.
I must say, Claire's report on you said that you cut off your right hand.
Barrows looked down at her right hand and flexed it.
Let's just say that I had a little help out there. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 82.
If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.